There is no amount of marketing that overcomes a bad product, even if it's true for that some, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, like over the very long period of time. The reputation in the product is the ultimate, determinant of value. Impatience with action, patience with results. I think that like defines the trust thing. Authors now have their own audience. They can sell directly through their website or, link people directly from their social media, their newsletter, whatever. They might give away 1,000 books.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they'll get $10 million in business to their core business, or raise hundreds of millions of dollars as a result of having that book out there and getting it into the right hands. Show me another marketing channel that like makes you money, builds trust at a deep level, and creates like high intent inbound.
Marketers have never been so spread thin. Like with all this stuff happening, technology is going crazy. It's really tough to really focus and get creative and create great content or connect with the customers like we used to, or even prospects. So, you're trying to launch a bunch of content campaigns, you're generating leads, you're trying to score the leads, you're nurturing them, so much more, but you really don't have enough time to even breathe, let alone do the best marketing out there. But HubSpot's trying to fix that for you. They have a new AI. It's built into the system called Breeze. So it combines their marketing hub and the content hub with all these different cool features that help you automate and, remix your content into a whole bunch of different types, score your leads in a better way, and actually have a nice look at the analytics and everything that's going on in your business. So I would recommend to stop spreading yourself out so thin and start making some big moves with HubSpot. You can try it out for yourself. Go visit HubSpot.com/marketers to learn more. Hey, before you get into the episode, I urge you to hit pause and go check out the AI Digital Mind. It's like a digital twin of this podcast and a whole bunch of other content I've released. Go to hustleandflowchart.com/AIJoe. It's hustleandflowchart.com/AIJoe. You can literally chat with this podcast with me and my guests in text, audio, and video for free. If you want one of these made for yourself, if you're interested, go to hustleandflowchart.com/interest, and we make these things out. So enjoy. Let's get to the episode. Eric, it's good to have you here, brother. And I'm happy we get to connect. And I've been reading this book here has been by my bedside for years now, since it came out. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, where I don't know.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say maybe you were the curator of that book.
Yeah,
the author.
I never really know what verb to use, because write doesn't, write, build, edit, curate, create, whatever you want to do.
But you're obviously doing a lot more. But that was the first time I was introduced to your way of thinking and just like the sheer massive, like just the work that would go into something like that.
Yeah.
I would love to dive in later on that, but
For sure.
I mean, yourself, man, you're doing some very interesting things. Scribe Media is you're the CEO over there. So, I mean, I guess, how are you doing? How are things right now? Let's start there. Like,
I'm learning to juggle. It's it's hard to split your attention across a handful of different projects, but it's also really fun. And I think you just try to stay in a place where you take the perspective, look for synergies, not distractions. So find ways that things can like feed each other and stack on each other. And my buddy David Senner's got a great line. It's like, opportunity well handled leads to more opportunity. And
that's very true. Yeah.
Is as sort of if you do something well, it unlocks new opportunities, and the opportunity cost of your time should continue to go up over time. Like, that's a good problem to have. Yeah. And you just end up with a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah. And you probably get used to it. Just even more and more.
I hope so.
One day.
Well,
I mean, I'm so intrigued by the story. Like I was mentioning, I've known about Scribe for a lot of years. I've seen, Tucker Max speak about it. I think he was one of the founders, right? Or co-founders?
Founder. Yeah. Tucker and Zach Obrant were the co-founders of Scribe.
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, interesting story. I would love for you to break things down, but you're at the helm right now. And I guess, where would you want to start with that? Because I have some questions and thoughts, but I mean, like, this episode, I feel like it'll be a great journey about what you've gone, starting as an author, a writer, and now running the thing.
Cool. Yeah. So if I do maybe the story of Scribe and the story of Eric, and they'll merge in the third act. But we've got, like you mentioned, it's the right place to start. Tucker Max and Zach Oberon. And Tucker is, for people who haven't heard of him, a very successful author. He's one of the original like blog to book guys. Absolutely, I mean, millions and millions of copies sold, multiple time New York Times bestseller. And so he got all these calls from friends. So, hilarious guy.
Crazy.
Like pathologically honest. Just a really, really interesting dude. And he's, we were sort of reading each other's blogs early on as he was starting Scribe. So I also had been following Scribe since the very beginning. And I think the vision that they had for where publishing was heading was incredible, and even more incredible 10 years ago. And they've really like the sort of the increased rise in hybrid and people leaving the traditional, leaders leaving the traditional publishing and setting up their own kind of more unique models that are closer to what Scribe has done, are all like really interesting sort of proof points of their original vision. And, over 10 years, they built up this really impressive company. I think it was like bootstrapped and grew like crazy, grew up to, tens of millions and, dozens of employees. And after 8 years or so, they were, they're founders and they're ready to go do other stuff. Tucker has a family and he's kind of ready to retire and go do his ranching and write his memoir. Nice. And Zach on the other side is like a super genius. And he went off and he became one of the biggest like bug bounty hunters in the Ethereum ecosystem. So he's like in the crypto world, and they totally went different directions. Like both brilliant and interesting and awesome guys. And as they stepped back from the company, the guy who they had hired as CEO before and who sort of took sole control of the company after they left, it went off the rails a little bit, and a little bit turned into a lot. And there's Tucker wrote an incredible kind of post-mortem about this whole thing and some of the psychological. He did in that post what I think no other business case study I've ever read has done, which is understand the psychology of the leader that led to the mistakes in the business, and then ultimately the outcome that affected so many people. It ended up being quite an ugly bankruptcy, actually, which I got caught up in. So
you're an author, right, at the time?
Yeah. So that's like smash cut back to like act one of Eric. I, came from the venture-backed startup world. I've always been a big reader and writer, and I love like tweeting turned into blogging turned into writing this book, the Almanac of Naval. And since Tucker, I'd been reading his blog and following him, and he was just one of the first people I reached out to when I was starting to talk to authors about like, how do you navigate this world of publishing? What are the options? It's very confusing. It's only gotten more confusing. So he was kind enough to take some time with me and lay out the options and talk to me about my book and help kind of really develop it and move it along. And so I ended up publishing that first book with Scribe as an author in 2019, 2020. And I had an incredible experience. Like the team was perfect. I learned so much. It was a remarkably like transformative experience, and that book changed my life. And as a model, I thought Scribe was just I thought it was dead on. I thought it was so correct. I thought they were very, they were just really honest about like, look, you as the author are the CEO of the book. Like you're going to front the cost, you're going to take the risk, but you also assume full control of this thing. You get to make all the final creative decisions. You get to craft the book the way you want to, that serves your goals and your life. And you're going to get the full upside, which especially for a book like Naval turned out to be life-changing. Like
that was
huge.
What, 1 million plus copies, right? Sold?
Yeah. I think we're at 1.5 million, I think, all formats, all languages, like worldwide. So awesome. It's a big world, but not a lot of books make it there, man. It's crazy.
Cool. Congrats, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, it is a testament to like Naval's wisdom, I think, and the word of mouth around it has been just crazy. I don't think it's I worked hard on the book, but I don't think it's like it's not some genius marketing hack that I have, right? It's just like a good product that changes people's lives, and a lot of people can get something from it. And
absolutely,
it's just had win in its sales very, very luckily for months now.
It's value packed, man. Like there's no fluff in there. Like seriously, if you don't have that, I'll be linking it in the all that stuff. Easy.
Thank you. Yes. I love to see a copy that's just beat to shit. That's got highlights on every page. It's all dog-eared. Yeah, it's been in and out of the backpack 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
Or like you said, people are like, yeah, you've been in my bedroom. It's been sitting next to my toilet, whatever.
Whatever it's seen, so you're top of mind, and it's true.
Yeah, it's perfect. I love to hear it. Or being gifted. Like I think being gifted is the best compliment a book can receive, right?
That's
so
true.
when people are like, I gave this to my little brother, it changed his life, he changed his major, he dropped out of school or quit med school or whatever the thing is that, sort of wrapping your head around some of these principles does for people.
That's right.
So I immediately, especially with a book like that, and an experience like that with Scribe, I immediately started writing my second book, which is the Anthology of Bology, and that came out like late 2023. But that was the book that I was publishing with Scribe also, and got caught up in this bankruptcy. So when the sort of the house fell, I took a loss just like everybody else in that. But I also was like, man, I feel like I owe this company, something, like some level of effort to save them after all of the good that I got from them and all the wonderful experience I had with the team and the respect I have for everybody there. And so I started just making some phone calls, and I'm lucky enough through just conferences and Twitter and friendships to know people who buy companies, or work in private equity or permanent equity. So I started making phone calls, and I found these guys, Sieva and Xavier, who run Enduring Ventures, who I'd met a few times at Berkshire Hathaway conference and I think Capital Camp and a few others. And they're just good dudes. They run a long-term holding company so it's not a fund. They're not trying to flip companies. They buy and hold for the long run. And they have a background in publishing and a background in distressed situations, which like this definitely was.
So they knew the now situation you're in, but they also had that long-term vision that to stick around with.
And they saw what I saw, which is like, this is a unique model. It had been a great brand until this very moment, which was basically one guy like screwed it up. And they're just long-term thinkers, and so they saw the potential, I think, and they were willing to do some of the really messy, heavy lifting to try to, in situations like that, there's no perfect solution. Everybody's going to end up angry about something. And there's a lot of pain to go around, like economic and emotional pain.
You're supporting thousands, I think you're up to like 2,000 plus authors, right? I don't know what was going on at that time, but trust, there's a lot of that probably is lost, and you're just like, oh shoot, it's caught in the middle. Right.
Yeah, there were hundreds of active authors, and a lot of people got, it just ended up in really unenviable situations. And I've heard some horror stories, and I've been trying to have conversations with all those people and make up for that and do what we can. Essentially, what ended up happening is we started a brand new company, hired over some of the team, and basically bought the IP from the bank. So the kind of mechanics are interesting. It's not my expertise, but to my surprise, they called me after and said we got this new thing and we need somebody to run it, and we think that should be you. So I was like, all right, let's give this thing a shot.
You raised your hand, man. That's like 90% of the battle right there, maybe more even. Situation.
It ended up being a very interesting, most people I know who are CEOs either built their business from the ground up or spent 15 years there and got hired into the role after sort of working their way up. And so I think, there's this sort of search fund and small business acquisition and private equity world that is full of kind of these weirdly interesting, almost one-off stories of seller financed acquisitions and or privately funded or search funded or independent sponsors. And this ended up being a very weird combination of all of those, kind of by accident, but it's a very it's a really cool world, and very interesting stuff happens in it.
Man, well, I'm thinking of the moment when you stepped into the role as CEO. Was there, I don't know, what was the feeling that you had at that point? Because you're obviously probably learning a ton and things that you didn't totally know about. Was there something that maybe your gut was feeling that spreadsheets and all the numbers really weren't talking? There had to have been something happening there.
It's a lot. You said it right. It's a lot of learning. It's a lot of getting oriented as quickly as possible to a lot of things, right? You're meeting the whole team, you're meeting the customers, you're trying to understand the processes. There's so much to wrap your head around really quickly. And friends who've been through this before warned me. They're like, you will get asked to make a decision in the first week that you don't think you'll be ready for 6 more months, and like you just have to do the best you can with what you have. So it's a very it is a very like seat of the pants experience, and but all you can do is kind of keep doing your best. And I'm 18 months in now, and I'm still trying to learn. There's so much. You can't possibly know enough, and every additional piece of information helps. Like every customer you talk to, trying to understand your whole team's roles ever more deeply and how they all fit together, and the changing environment, the different offers, different authors, different tools, different vendors.
True.
So yeah, it's already a dynamic environment, and then you're trying to play catch up on top of it. But it's also kind of what makes it fun. It's a very fun. It's fun to kind of be to some extent, the nexus of all of that information and have it all kind of like feeding into you. It's a lot to process, but it's very fun. Like for somebody who's deeply, endlessly curious and hungry to understand all of this.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And be right in the middle of it. Yeah. I mean, I see a bunch of books behind you, so it's like you're literally surrounded by authors all day, every day.
Yeah, dude, I tell you, it is brutal to like have 6 to 8 author meetings with authors a day who they explain their book idea, and you're like, shit, I want to read that book. And then half an hour later, you're like, that sounds amazing. I would love to read that book.
It's like having podcasts like this. That's a great idea. Focus.
Yeah. It's very easy for the opportunities and ideas and reading material in particular to stack up.
I bet. Yeah. Well, walk me through. There's like two ways I want to go, and I don't know which way it is yet, but maybe start with the rebuilding trust. Because I was thinking the trust with existing authors, maybe ones that, and this leads me to the model of Scribe too. I want to make that very clear. I don't know which way that goes because, I don't know. I'll just leave that to you.
Yeah. I mean, let's start with the trust is the foundation of everything. So I think starting there, I wrote the first annual letter recently to kind of the community and the team. And I think this first year was all about just rebuilding trust. And I don't think, it's not something you can ask for. It's something you have to earn, and it takes time and repetition. And, to be trustworthy, you have to be reliable, and to be reliable, people need a sample size. And, there's some element where you can't speed that up. You just have to be conspicuously doing the thing that you are expected to do, that you promised that you would do over and over again. And, if you're greedy for trust, it's much more, it's people hesitate. It's a very that's why I say you can't really ask for it. You just have to earn it.
It's they could smell it out that you're wanting it maybe more, or needing it, I guess.
When people proclaim themselves to be trustworthy, it's almost always a counter signal, right? If they're leading with conspicuous, and frankly, the guy that used to run Scribe did this. He did lots of claims about transparency and honesty and integrity. Wow. And my focus for the team was let's just get back to fundamentals. Let's just focus. We have to be flawless on the fundamentals of what we're doing. We don't miss deadlines. We don't ship mistakes. We just do the work. And the best advertisement is the work on our desk. And we're in the business of rebuilding a reputation, day by day, week by week, book by book. We're not going to shout about it. We're not going to ask for it. We're just going to do the work. And, I've never been one to I do not like to advertise myself. I'd rather just do good work and let the work speak for itself, and let others sort of, if they feel comfortable, tell other people that we did good work.
It's like a testament of what you did with the Naval book,
Yeah, I think, you can't, there is no amount of marketing that overcomes a bad product. And even if it's true for that, some, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, over the very long period of time, the reputation and the product is the ultimate, determinant of value. And that's just the right place to keep the focus.
I like that. Now I would say because I was thinking, is there some kind of trust hack or anything? But it's really doing what you say, because most people don't even do that. Maybe do it in a concise or effective manner that helps everybody, and just keep doing it, keep showing up.
Yeah. Any trust hack, I think, destroys trust.
Yes.
It's kind of like, I think we've all had experiences with somebody who like overdosed on how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah,
And
that's
they're
right.
like, "Hey, Joe, it's really great to see you, Joe. How's your wife, Joe? Joe?" Like all of the like hacks that you're like, we've met one time. Like,
Hmm.
just be a human,
Yeah.
and like let the relationship develop normally. So it's a very, yeah. I think like you just you just got to be the kind of be the partner that you would want
That's good.
to be
Yeah.
seen as. Yeah, just walk
Yeah.
the walk and keep your mouth shut and let it take care of itself. Be patient. Be patient. Be patient.
Man, patience is probably it's the toughest, but it's true. You just gotta let stuff develop
Yeah.
as it
I
should.
mean, I will quote Naval at least 5 times in this episode because it's an occupational hazard for me. But impatience with action, patience with results. I think
Mhm.
that like defines the trust thing. Like you must be obsessive and impatient about doing good work, and you have to be patient with allowing that reputation to, you know, catch up to the work that you're doing because it's always going to be a lagging indicator.
Yes, yeah, and that's good. Layer everything with Naval quotes because I mean, there's a whole book obviously, but people love
Yeah,
them. So,
yeah,
and if you're not following Naval for whatever reason, and Eric, like go find him on Twitter. I'm sure it's probably the best place or X, whatever.
yeah.
So, but let's go to the model of Scribe Media. Like,
Yeah.
did things change from before? I guess break it down in general because I know a lot of folks listening,
Hmm.
watching maybe have a book or thinking about a book. I mean, let's be honest, we'll address the whole tech thing and how there's tools like AI now that could speed up
Yeah.
the writing. So people thinking, hey, I could just do this myself. Like, why would I go to Scribe and, work with you guys?
Yeah. So I'll give you the like the context first is that the whole history of publishing is basically uh, a 150-year-old business model that the presumption is that most books are sold in bookstores, that they're physical books. The presumption is that they're marketed through centralized media like TV and newspapers and magazines. The presumption is also that you need like a big capital investment up front to like do a big print run of books and get them all distributed in order to sell books. And when all those things were true 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, it made a ton of sense to have a traditional publishing model and where they give authors advances, they take control of the copyright, and they basically manage the book and the inventory of the book for a long period of time, and they just pay the author some royalties for having written the thing in the first place. And what is obvious to everybody living on the internet now is like all three of those have actually flipped 180,
Yeah.
right? Like most books, this is not obvious, but most books, physical books that you use now are print on demand. Like
That's true.
almost everything you buy on Amazon, like, so there is no need for a big upfront investment. There's no physical inventory. It's basically like selling a digital product, and just like Amazon takes care of printing and distribution for you. The other is that most books are sold on Amazon or on other websites. So you don't actually need a huge, proprietary distribution network. They still exist and people still buy from bookstores, but like the majority of them are sold either digitally or through Amazon, even when there are physical versions. And third, like you don't need, going on the late show or the morning show doesn't move a ton of copies anymore. It's like going on podcasts, newsletters, and being recommended on social media.
Mm.
And so through with all those as sort of givens, the model that makes the most sense is actually like authors being in full control.
Yeah.
Authors now have their own audience. They can sell directly through their website or, link people directly from their social media, their newsletter, whatever. The authors have done all the work to de-risk the book essentially. The authors in many cases like make more money from other sources, whether it's coaching, speaking, consulting, a fund, like whatever the business model is. There's usually, especially for like nonfiction business authors that we normally work with, lots of ways for them to win other than selling a ton of books and making money from the royalties themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a few authors that we've worked with that are like that. So David Goggins is the most famous and the highest selling. I mean, one of the best selling memoirs of all time. And he basically couldn't get an offer that he was happy with from a traditional publisher. He's like, you guys are undervaluing me. And, if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, I'll go do it myself. And so he worked with Scribe and published Can't Hurt Me and Never Finished, both with us.
Yep.
which means,
Yeah.
both incredible books. And he just went to war at, like only David Goggins can, like selling that book, right? So for years and years, he just like would speak and market and go on social and talk about that book and sell that book and go do interviews. And he sold this is an old number, but it was in 5 million plus. He made closer to 10 by now. And because he published with Scribe, he paid us a few tens of thousands of dollars to do all of the publishing work, but he kept all of the rest of that upside on millions of copies. So he's got to be one of the highest earning authors of all time. He's out earning many authors who are actually traditionally published, but even sold more books just because of how he went about it and the risk that he took initially to get his full upside.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. And thanks for breaking down all the different elements of like ROI of a published author.
Yeah. So I should say, like, Scribe's model is like the opposite of traditional publishing in that we don't offer advances. We actually just charge a clear, fixed, flat rate for the work that a traditional publisher will do. So you bring a manuscript to us, we'll copy edit it, we'll proofread it, we'll do cover design, we'll do page layout, we'll do illustrations, we'll design all the final files the way you want, we'll help you get it uploaded for distribution and launched, and then you make all the final creative decisions, you keep all your rights, and you keep all your royalties.
Wow. Okay.
Which is, for people like me and Goggins who are going to go sell a lot of books, that's a huge ROI on the royalties because we're earning 2 to 4 times as much as a traditionally published author would on a per book basis. But the more important thing is actually that there are thousands, millions of authors that a traditional publisher would never even consider because they'll only sell 1,000 books or 10,000 books, and they're trying to find people that'll sell 100,000 books or at minimum 50,000. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense for them to take the risk and do the work.
I want to pause for a moment and shout out another podcast on the HubSpot Podcast Network, your audio destination for business professionals. This one's called Og Mentors. It's hosted by Julie Mayer and Jimmy Edgerton. And these two, they're a pretty cool duo where one is, Jimmy is a lot more on the loose side. I would say that Julie brings it in and keeps us focused on mentoring and movement. And so these folks, they focus on mentoring and exploring ways on how to augment and refresh kind of like the way that mentoring is applied. And they have these principles that they weave into their episodes, and they give a bunch of practical tips and they lace it with a whole bunch of humor as well. It's always cool when there's a cool duo happening there. So if you're in the mentoring space, or if you have a leadership space, relationship guidance and things like that, that's what the podcast is made for. So you'll get a lot for it. It's great for entrepreneurs, marketers, sales professionals. They love the show as well. It's a great one. I've checked it out and I recommend it. So go listen to Og Mentors wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, I'm going to do a quick shout out one more time for the thing I talked about at the top of the episode, which is the AI version of me and of this podcast and my YouTube videos and all these things. It all lives within this AI platform. I used Delphi.ai to create it, and I want you to use mine. It's totally free. Go to hustleandflowchart.com/AIJoe. That's hustleandflowchart.com/AIJoe. Test this thing out. It's crazy. You can type with it, talk with it. You can even use video. And you can look up anything from this podcast. You can ask a question about your business, life, any scenario. It kind of learns about you with the information you give it. It's rad. You will love it. And also, there's a lot of people who are asking, how do I get one of these? How do I build it out? The cool thing is my team and I have been building a ton of these every single day. I've used the platform, Delphi.ai, for 2 years. I'm actually one of their advisors because I was one of their first users and just gave them a ton of feedback. I love it. But we build these things. So if you want to use it for lead generation, for, you have all this content as an expert, author, coach type person, we can put that into this digital brain and make it interactive. You could use it for customer service, internal training for your team, for your organization, lots of uses. If you would like one of these, I can pass over an exclusive deal. There's no one else that's offering this out there. I work closely with Delphi as one of their partners, agency partners, to build this out. So hit me up, type hustleandflowchart.com/interest into whatever browser. Again, that's hustleandflowchart.com/interest, and hit me up. Let's build this thing together. All right, back to the episode.
But I talk to authors every single day who want to write a book for their own reasons, just to impact a social issue, or they want to take they want to get their message out there. They want to claim, like, they want to increase their credibility. They want to tell their story. They want to give back to their industry. They want to, really connect deeply with their clients or their potential clients. And they may, there's people that'll only sell 1,000 books. They may give away 1,000 books.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they'll get $10 million in business to their core business, or raise hundreds of millions of dollars as a result of having that book out there and getting it into the right hands and building trust on a very deep level through the means of this, like, very important timeless medium that is just really difficult to fake. Like,
you can't. Yeah.
Yeah. You write a great book, like, you probably know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
it's still more important. Like, I love your thoughts on this, because, you have AI and everybody feels like, information's at my fingertips. I could be, knowledgeable in seconds on whatever topic I want, or I can look up this person's book and get the summary of everything. And
yeah,
the answer I would say is yes to that. But the value of a book, like, I would love to hear it even more from you, going down this vein of, the ROI or the reasons why people would publish. It's kind of what you're stating here. It's like, you can make it your own on the front end, but a business model should be defined on the back end, I would imagine. And yeah, any thoughts on that, or how Scribe kind of steers people through that process?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to everybody. We try to get an idea of what the context is that they're publishing this book into, right? So there are people who come in and say, I truly just want to impact this issue. And if I, like one author that I remember is the issue that they wanted to impact. They're retired. They did very well for themselves. And they're like, I am dedicating years of my life and a large amount of money to impacting gay teen suicide. And if I can save one life, this will be worth it.
True.
And I do not care about anything else. I don't care if I sell like copies. I don't care if I give them away. I don't care, like, what it costs. Like, as soon as I reach that threshold, I'm great. I will keep reaching for 2 and 3 and 4 and 100, but, like, that's my measure of success. And no traditional publisher is going to care about that. Like, that's a big risk to take. But if that's important to you, and I think that book could be good for the world, who's not going to support that? But most importantly, like, if you just have a vision like that, we will help you do it. But a different example along similar lines is, like, Paul Franco wrote a book called Successful Successions. And it's very, very targeted. And we often coach authors to do this, like, uncomfortably targeted. So his book is for certified financial planners who own their own firm, who are retiring within the next 5 years.
Okay. He knows his audience.
And they're, like, not sure how to transition. They're not sure what a good transition looks like. They're not sure what their options are. And Paul's business is to buy those the firms from people transitioning out who are, like, retiring and just ready to be doing a different chapter. And so they search for this problem. They see his book. Amazon is very underrated as a search engine. Yep. So they search for it. They find it. They buy it. They read it. And then they pick up the phone and call Paul and try to see if he'll buy their firm, because they like how he thinks and they trust him. And they just had this experience of, like, understanding his philosophy and his expertise. And, as far as marketing goes, like, you just made, $4 to spend 10 hours with this client in this very high leverage way, that now they pick up the phone and call you and ask you to buy it. There's no other, show me another marketing channel that, like, makes you money, builds trust at a deep level, and creates, like, high intent inbound like that.
Absolutely. And I see it, I'm partnered with, one of my partners is Mike Koenig's here in San Diego. And I'm one of the fractional AI officers. We consult a ton of businesses, but this program we do on the back end, it's high level, almost $10,000 thing, but it's all driven by the book on the front end. And we see where all the leads are coming. It's all from the book, and everyone I talked to, read the book, and like, not even all the way through, and invested or needed. I knew I needed you guys. I'm like, there it is.
It's incredible. It's so difficult to create that level of trust, and there's so few mediums that can do it. And if you're out there, like, dropping a bunch of paid ads, like, it's that, goes back to that level of trust. Like, when you are asking to be trusted instead of just doing something and letting yourself be evaluated as high trustworthy or not, it's just a very different kind of climb. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad to hear you having a similar experience.
Absolutely, man. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, paid ads are evil or anything, but I think the
No.
big thing is, like you said, like be in a place where people are looking for you. Amazon, don't gloss this over. I know you didn't, but like for anybody who might have missed it, Amazon is a search engine. I don't know where they rank with everything, but
Yeah.
it ain't going anywhere. And their
Yeah.
apps, integrated now with even you have all the AI stuff, like they'll point there as a source too. Like
Yeah.
there's so being there, you need a book or some kind of product, but
Yeah.
why not give them the book?
Yeah, it is an incredible thing, and the fact that you need to have written a book to get a search engine results page
Bingo.
on Amazon is a very high bar. Like, there's authors with us who are selling software, like B2B SaaS software, like big contracts through a book, and because they're some of the only ones with a book out there about it. And we work with quite a few organizations actually, like publish a book as their organization, or have a systematic thing where like one of their executives publishes a book every year that helps sort of build their mind share each in different ways that attracts. Sometimes it's to attract employees or partners or customers or investors, like whatever it is. It's a very because it's not a traditional marketing channel, I actually think it becomes really effective.
I think so, man. Well, and I want to go to AI because it's obviously a hot topic. It's only getting hot by the minute, it seems like. Everything's getting cheaper, faster, tools for everybody. Of course, you could write a book very quickly with AI, but I wouldn't say it's all about speed. You can write an effective book as well. Like I'll say an example. I'm an advisor of a company called Delphi.ai, and one of the use cases, lesser known, is you can write a really solid book, or at least start the process, because it's all based off your knowledge, like this digital mind.
Oh,
You
interesting.
prompt it. So you can like literally pull in quotes and all that stuff from like this podcast. I can make a book. And that's actually the plan. It's like, why not? It's almost like a Tim Ferriss Tribe of Mentors kind of style, But like, how would you, I guess my question would be like, how do you guys have people use AI or some tools to kind of get that manuscript, the initial draft, out of them? Because I know that's the biggest hurdle for most people.
Yeah, I mean, the advance in transcription tools has been huge over the past few years, which helps a lot, because a big part of our method is actually interviewing people and writing the book for them. Like there's a lot of people have, writer's block is a real thing. Talker's block is not a thing.
True.
So if you're sitting, like part of our, our scribes that are people sort of create a partner in writing their book are not just great writers and not just thoughtful about structuring the book, but really great engaging interviewers. And so they'll really work with you to position this and outline it and understand what you want to accomplish. And then they'll feel like a friendly conversation. They just pull the information, the stories, the important principles, the key quotes out of you. And that's the process for running into the book. We are always like experimenting with AI. It is still, I think the end result will be to make the great people more prolific. And there are things that it speeds up, but it's still not great for like long form prose generation. It just doesn't quite have the touch yet that you want. And so there are advantages to it, but it's sort of a different trade-off of like, you spend more time editing because the first draft is a little further off. And especially when you're trying to build a very long, very thoughtful like thread of continuous ideas, it's much easier for it to lose the thread, and it's much harder to find when the thread is lost. So you just have to if you did AI generation, you have to spend a little more time in editing and be a little more concerned about the structure and the linearity of the thoughts. But I think to your point, like depending on the kind of book that you want to write, if what you want to write is a very disjointed Tribe of Mentors thing where you're just like, here's an episode, condense it down, plug it in. I think those will be very commoditized relatively quickly. Not that makes it a bad format. It can still be a great format, but like AI will unlock that one sooner than a novel, for example. But I'm seeing really good, like, it's just a great sounding board. I mean, it's a tireless sounding board and proofreader and editor, and it can just be a really good way. I did a great, one of my very smartest friends about AI and usage in general is Sean Devine. Okay. And I had him on my podcast, Smart Friends, and he was like, this was a year and a half ago, and he's like, AI has completely changed how I hire. I now hire for 2 traits, which is like curiosity and endurance.
Yep.
Like I could be misquoting that, but like endurance or something very like it. He's like, this is the most important thing. Like, you now have not just a bicycle for the mind, but like a nuclear reactor for the mind. But it only really operates as long as you do. Like, you have to keep hitting the ball back, because it will iterate instantly. And so if you're not feeding it something, if you're not reacting to it, if you're not continuing to push and refine it, then like it stops working. And so, can you put in a 12-hour day with like a relentless volley partner who's just like hitting the ball back instantly? It's like playing
never tired, but you can get tired.
Right. Yeah. It's like playing chess against the computer. Like, it moves instantly and you're like, fuck, I need to think. Yeah. So, that, but for all work is like a really interesting psychological shift. And knowing that, this is another one that Sean mentioned that's counterintuitive, but like, options are free. Like, when we're working with a human, we're used to being like, give me 3 good options and I'll pick one, because saying, give me 100 good options and I'll pick one would be psychotic. And so like, but with AI, you can say, give me 100, give me 1,000. I hate all of those. Give me 2,000 more. Like, okay, now rank order them. Now throw away anything. Like, it's very, there's some counterintuitive things about it that, a lot of writers, I think, are relearning how to write with new tools. And, I like, I very much love my job and I love talking to authors all day, but I'm also like, shit, I wish I could just block off some time and really like wrap my head around working with these tools.
Oh, I bet, man. I mean, it's a monumental task, and it's good that, I've positioned at least myself in a way that I can monetize that and be the source of that truth.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's changing. And the thing I always just say is like, just get your hands on something that you can stick with and really understand and grasp. And like you said, be curious and keep going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just plug this here. I know that at Timely, DeepSeek is like making all the world's news, it seems like, but Perplexity is like my go-to research tool. But when you hook the two together, which you can now, it's like insane amount of real-time searching plus reasoning, and it's talk about like deep research in seconds. And
very cool.
Try that out. Yeah.
All right.
It's pretty sweet. But how about like Naval? I want to bring out some philosophy, like some things that have impacted you especially through this journey of becoming the CEO of Scribe Media 18 months ago. And like one of the quotes that Naval just sticks out to me is that happiness is a choice. And I genuinely believe that's true. And that's kind of I don't know. Some people feel like happiness shouldn't be the thing that you strive for, but it's like, why the hell not? I don't know. Like, what else is there? And that, So how does maybe that quote or something like that from Naval helped you through, I'm sure, like burning it out throughout the nights, figuring it, just the stressful times?
Yeah. I think, choice is almost, he has said it's a choice. He has also said it's a skill. And I think like skill is actually a more useful frame, because you don't, when you hear happiness is a choice, it almost makes you feel guilty, or something. It's like, just choose to be happy, dumbass. Like,
what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Don't you know there's a switch you can just flip? And like,
wow, that back here.
Like, wow, that's probably true. You have to do some work to build that switch, right? Or remember that it's there, or have it in arm's reach. So I think the skill framing reminds you that it'll take time to get better at, and that you should expect to have to work at getting better at every day. But it also, it will yield to effort and intention. And if you work on becoming happier, you can become happier. I also remember, I've been following Noel for long enough to know that like he wasn't always happy, and he didn't always focus on happiness. He didn't always value happiness. And so saying that it's a choice is not to imply that it's easy, but that it is something that you can control with effort over time. And it's funny, I think he spent a long time being unhappy while getting rich, and then got rich and is like, that didn't make me happy. Maybe that's a different quest. And so like, I think not that many people that, I know some really happy people. I know some really rich people. I know very few like very happy and very rich people. Especially, Naval, who went on the quest to become both of those. It's not like he was born happy and happened to become rich. It's not like he was born rich and happens to be happy. Like, he started without either of them and deliberately built both. And so this book is very much like, here are the principles and the tactics and the mindset that he used to go from, not that to that.
Yeah.
And, he's got an interest, like, his description of this is like, if you want to know how to lose weight, you don't go ask somebody who's been skinny their whole life. They're not even going to know what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, you want to find somebody who was, got up to 600 pounds and then got back down to, 150, 160. Like, that person knows what they're talking about because they've been on both sides and they've had to fight the fight to get, to overcome the thing. They beat a bigger dragon than you're trying to beat. And like, that's the person who can teach you. And so I think, when you're filtering for people to read, people to emulate, heroes, there's a lot of people talking a game that they learn from somebody else, not firsthand. And that's just a different, there's a different level of knowledge that comes with that.
That's a good frame. Yeah. And and I know, Naval, you're absolutely right. Like, it's cool to see that progression. And I know you outlined that a ton in the book. Like, is there something that you, either from the Almanac or just studying Naval, that keeps you grounded? Like, is there a tactic that you go to often?
There's a lot on the happiness side. There's a lot of little ones that just became habits. That I think he's such a good distiller, and he comes up with these sticky little phrases. And so some of these seem very small, but if you do them every day, if you do them multiple times a day, it does, I think, meaningfully change your like base level of happiness. And so two in particular, there's one that, I drink coffee every morning, and he's got one that says, like, if you can't be happy with a cup of coffee, you won't be happy with a yacht.
I like that.
Which is a beautiful encapsulation of everything that you need to know about like learning to appreciate the things that you have. And that reminds me, and I think about it on my first cup of coffee every single day, and just like take a second with the steamy mug before your first sip, and you're just like, this little thing is a fucking miracle that I can just really appreciate. And if I can't learn to appreciate this, there's no point in striving for anything else. So like, practice appreciation with this thing in this moment, this humble thing, and let that be like a moment that is complete of itself.
It's like very mindfulness. It's like that moment of Zen that you just carved out for yourself.
Yeah. And you can, I think he had another one about a toothbrush, that's like, whenever he's brushing his teeth, like he uses that as a moment to just like concentrate on the feeling, like how good the toothbrush feels. Like, don't look at your phone. Don't think about the tasks that you're supposed to be doing, like, or could be doing. Like, just be very present. And having those triggers that are things that will happen to you all the time. And another one is when you feel the sun on your skin, look up and smile.
Yes.
It's like tiny thing. I mean, you live in San Diego, so you'll have to stop doing that at some point and go get some
shit.
Right? Go get some stuff done. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Don't stare right at it. Important.
Yeah. Huberman says to stare at it, but it's got to be low on the horizon. We're all doing that these days.
But yeah, just little things that stick with you. So yeah, some of those have worked their way into my daily life, and that I really appreciate.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Is there one that hasn't worked, like, or one that you just like, all right, Naval, this sounded really good, but it's fucking useless?
One that I'm still struggling to implement, that I think Naval's probably better at than me, is just like, he's got it's almost a Buddhist approach of the like only the individual ascends or transcends, and that it's a pretty hard line on like, you're not responsible for other people's feelings or happiness. And that's just a really difficult thing in practice day to day,
That's for sure. Yeah.
You've got people you love around you all the time, and you care about how they feel and how their experience is going. And I'm not actually sure that it's like ideal to totally separate. It's not ideal for your relationships. It might be, if you want to go become a monk and like take complete perfect accountability for your internal state, and you're just observing like the objective neurochemicals in your brain and how much dopamine you get, maybe, it is optimal to like totally separate from all relationships, but that's at least not the way I want to live my life. And so there's a lot of times when that is just a messy area of trade-offs, I think, around relationships. And when you do choose to take on other people's emotional states to show empathy and work through something together, and or share pain, share experiences,
and not jump to conclusions too quickly or try to solve it for someone else or maybe even yourself sometimes, just like let it simmer.
Yeah.
Something usually connects for whoever it is.
Yeah. But he's decades into this journey, so it's possible that that's just a naive take from me, but it is, that is an extreme, I think he's got a relatively extreme stance, and it comes from the philosophies that he's read, and some of the philosophers are extreme by nature. So I don't disagree with it so much as like have chosen a different path, or at least live a different path in the moment. And we're all on different paths at different places. So
absolutely, man. Different upbringings and all that. So, got to keep that in mind. We're all starting in different places, which is totally fine. Give yourself a break, everyone. Please. So, that leads me to this thought of like, you've worn a lot of hats and still do, author, curator. I call you an author, obviously. And, founder, investor, podcaster, and all these things, now CEO. Like, I'm thinking of fulfillment. Like, that's the frame I have here. So is there like a myth, almost like a toxic myth, that you think that you had to unlearn in this process, for as a CEO, or any of these hats? Like, has something come up that you've reframed over those years?
I want to say I've sort of given up on the concept of done. Like, there is no finish line, really. Like, any given finish line is arbitrary, and I will always be working on something and just trying to find good high leverage ways to like make the future better. And that work will never be done, and I'll never be quite satisfied with it. And that's like, I have to learn to exist in a state of happiness without anything being like done and complete and at rest. So there's a Navalism that's like, happiness is peace in motion, and peace is happiness at rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so learning to become like peaceful and in motion at the same time, learn to be happy and satisfied without feeling done, because you will never be done, is a constant quest. And I'm not good at it, but I feel lucky to have at least learned that that's something that I need to get better at, and try to refocus on, and just live in that space. And some of the people that I admire the most are really, really good at that. They, even under high stress, heavy fire, they can be peaceful and productive. And I think that's the mindset to have to stay in the game for a really long time, which is what you need to do if you're going to have great compounding results and great relationships. And easier said than done, especially when you hold yourself to high standards and you care a lot about, what you're doing and who you're doing it with. But that's a goal. That's a focus.
I love it, man. I kind of want to end it right there, because that's it's impactful. Thanks for sharing. Definition of done. Yeah. What is that? Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for sharing, man. And I guess a couple of things, like, who are you following closely now? Obviously Naval, Balaji. I think you have something with Musk coming up here, right? Another book.
I'm working on Elon Musk. Very tough to pin down, but I'm very focused. I'm focused on the first few decades of building that he did, and what makes his mindset and his approach really unique in the scale of problems that he tackles, and how the intensity with which he tackles them. I think there's something for all entrepreneurs to learn in that. And so that's really the book that's coming together this year. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I hope that I hope it's helpful. I hope it helps, birth a generation of 1,000 Musks, and usher in a golden age in the next industrial revolution. That's my humble hope for this book. And then
I love it. Yeah, great vision.
Yeah. I follow. I think Casey Handmer is a little more technical than Naval or Musk. But I think he's an incredible talent, underrated, underfollowed, very much in the tech world, but like brilliant guy.
I don't follow him, so that's great. I'll add him to the list.
Yeah, highly recommended.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, Eric, dude, this has been a pleasure, and thanks for being so open, honest. I know you are. And first time we chatted, but like, we went there. So appreciate you, man. Yeah,
of course. Thank you for having me. This is very fun.
Yeah, in scribemedia.com, is that the best place, or where else should they find Scribe and then also find you?
Yeah, if you're thinking about a book, if you think a book can help build your business, if you've got a Stray Notes app full of book ideas,
or Honor.ai like me.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So come just chat with us, and we're happy to like take you through that. Scribemedia.com, and just get a consult with somebody on the team. And all my personal stuff is at ejorgenson.com, and I'm on Twitter or X all the time at Eric Jorgenson. So happy to DM or get you on the newsletter and whatever else you're interested in.
Go check it out, the podcast and everything. We'll link everything, show notes, description, make it easy for you. So Eric,
thank you,
my man.
Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.